Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Going Places with Abu Micah. If this is your first time watching my videos, welcome. I talk about moving to Canada and living in Canada as an immigrant. Now, I'm an immigrant myself. I moved to Canada 2 years ago through the Express Entry Federal Skilled Worker Program. So I'm going to talk about our Express Entry journey from start to permanent residence. I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible, but just give you an overview of how that process works and how we did it. So you want to find out more about that, do stay tuned. Okay, welcome back, guys. We first heard of Express Entry in 2015. My wife and we are from Zimbabwe, so we at that time we were in Cyprus. We had just arrived in Cyprus. I was there to do my master's degree for 1 year. And I had been following an immigration lawyer called David Cohen, the late. I mean, he is now late. Unfortunately, he passed away, I think, sometime last year or the year before. But he's the guy behind CIC News. So he owned a law firm called Campbell Cohen and Associates. So they do immigration law and whatever processes for Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and I think UK as well. So I was following them. I was a member of their mailing list, and they announced that Canada has a new immigration program called Express Entry. And I had a chat with somebody from the law firm who explained the costs and the process and everything. But I had just, started doing my master's, and I didn't have time to go through all of that. So that was in 2015. They quoted us about 900 British pounds because we're in Cyprus. So that was one of the currencies there. So they quoted us 900 British pounds. I was like, hey, I would rather, if I had 900 British pounds, I would put it towards like the costs of my studies and living in Cyprus and all of that stuff. So fast forward, 2016, graduated, went to the UAE. Our kid was born there in 2017. And that's when we decided to take the route of coming to Canada. That's when we decided to become serious about coming to Canada, because we realized after about a year and a half of living in Dubai that it's not a place to settle long term. It's a nice place to go and live and work for a bit. It's a beautiful place to holiday, but it's not a place to settle long term. So we started looking at those immigration options again and talked to a number of different consultants in UAE. So we used a consultant for our process. You don't have to, but hey, that's what we did. I'm just sharing our journey. So we then went with a consultant based in Business Bay. I'm just going to put the link in the description for the consultant that we used. But we engaged the consultant, and the consultant pretty much explained to us the process and how they were going to assist us in our journey. And we signed an agreement. We paid the consultant's fees, and then we started so the first thing we had to do was to get our educational credentials assessed for Canadian equivalency. So I studied in Cyprus. I did masters from there and a bachelor's from Zimbabwe, and my wife also had a bachelor's degree from Zimbabwe. Both of us at that point had about just under 6 years of work experience. My wife had a little bit more experience, but we used mine because I had the higher score, because I had a master's degree. So remember, Express Entry, it's a points game. You have to just see who among you, if you are married, which spouse has got the higher score, because it doesn't matter. You don't have to submit 2 entries, right? So just one with the spouse has got the higher score. You add the rest of the family there. So so we then so the consultant did the WES. We used WES for our educational credential assessment. There are a number of different organizations you can use. I'm just putting them up here. So that process involved filling out an international transcript request form and sending it to all of the institutions we studied at. So for my wife, it was 1. For mine, for me, it was 2. And coordinating all of that, imagine we're working in UAE, super busy, work schedules, hectic, plus family, plus this, we had a new baby. So it was very difficult. That's partly why we decided to use a consultant, because we didn't have the time to do all of that by ourselves. So So did the international transcript request, sent it to the institutions. They asked us to pay money for transcript generation and courier fees to send the documents to Western Toronto. Once the document arrived, so the documents arrived in March, right? So March 2019, that's when the documents arrived at West Canada. That whole process took about 3 or 4 months, because, like, talking to Cyprus people and Zimbabwe people and all that stuff. So we waited for the evaluation results to be released, and then we did our IELTS. We later learned that we could have done both, like at the same time, that when we submitted our waste, we booked our IELTS, but we had to raise funds in between, because you need money, to settle in Canada and to show for your proof of funds document. So we then booked our IELTS in June, and wrote our test like 2 weeks later. We practiced on our own using YouTube videos. We got some material from our consultant, which we practiced with as well. So both of us, like my wife and I, we got CLB9 in our first attempts. So that was good. So the next thing was now creating the profile. So the consultant did it for us and just sent us to verify that the information had been entered correctly. Submitted our express entry profile, and 25 days later, were invited to apply for permanent residence. So while we were waiting for that, we had to get employment reference letters. So of course, your accompanying spouse's work experience doesn't give you points, but we did it anyway because it was possible to do it. It helps with the background check, makes it a lot smoother and faster if you've got documents to support what you are putting in your profile. So I got my work reference letters from my employer in Zimbabwe, and then also I worked for a bank that closed in Zimbabwe. So for that one, I couldn't contact anybody to get me the employment reference letter. So what I did was I got as much documentation as I could to prove that I actually worked there. So I got my offer letter, my employment contract. I had those documents, so I submitted those as part of my application. Now, when you're creating an express entry profile, you don't need to submit any documents. You only submit your documents at the time you are invited to apply for PR. So we got our invitation in June. In July, right? Yeah, we got our invitations in July. So July 10, 2019, that's when we got our invitation to apply in that draw. I remember the cutoff score was 460. We had 461. So imagine 1 point made a difference. Now, before the invitation, we also had to get police clearance certificates. So police clearance certificates from Cyprus, police clearance certificates from Zimbabwe. They want police clearance certificates for every country you've lived in for 6 months or more in the last 10 years. And then we got police clearance certificates for UAE just before submitting the application. We also booked medical exams and went to Sharjah for the medical exams. There was a physician there. Canada will show you a list of all the physicians in your country, so you don't have to wonder like, okay, who's the physician in my country? No, so there's a whole list of them, and you go for your medicals there. You pay for that as well. And after our medicals, we got our proof of funds documents together. I had to go to my bank. I think I paid almost like $100 for that because they had to generate 6 months of bank statements and then write a letter, and then I had to pay for the letter that showed that I had no liabilities with the bank and all that stuff. So it cost me $100 to get those documents together, and then I scanned everything and gave to the consultant, and then they prepared the application and submitted it. I had to pay like $2,400 for the application fees. That's Canadian dollars. And once that happened, about 2 weeks later, we got an instruction letter to go and submit our biometrics. I'm like at the visa application center in Dubai. That's VFS Global. So it's in Wafi Mall, Healthcare City, Dubai Healthcare City there. So we went there, myself and my wife. They didn't take biometrics for the kid. I don't remember if they did. Maybe they did. I don't remember. But anyhow, biometrics enrollment. We didn't have to pay for that because we'd already paid for that when we paid for the application fee. Then what happened was so after that we just waited. 5 months later, got a letter in the mail that it was basically RRCC saying we are ready to issue your visas. So that was now in February 2020. And on the 2nd of February 2020, that's when we got our PPR. And then so the same day, we rushed to submit our passports, at again the same visa application center. And about a week later, we got the passports back. So my wife and my son and my passport and the landing documents, the COPRs, and then we started planning. So we had to land in Canada by August 2020. But so we're like, okay, fine, let's work a little bit more, raise a bit more money so that we land in Canada at least with a chunk of cash. But unfortunately, COVID happened now in like late February, right? That's when they closed all the airports. March, we couldn't fly anyway. But fortunately, a series of events happened that enabled us to fly to Canada in May amidst the lockdown and all of that stuff. So we flew to Canada, the three of us. We canceled our UAE visas, canceled everything, tenancy contracts, resigned from work, and flew to Canada to land at the airport. And this is the video of our landing, our landing in Canada. So you can watch that and find out more about how the landing process went. But pretty much that's how, that's the express entry process. So yeah, so first two things: educational credential assessment, English language test, French. If you know French, it gives you extra points. So once you have those two, you can create a profile. After creating a profile, you wait for an invitation. If you're invited, you apply for permanent residency. Within 60 days, you wait for a reply, and the reply is positive. Send your passports for visa stamping if you need a visa to come to Canada. If not, hey, you just get your landing documents and you'll fly to Canada, complete your landing process, and voila, you are now a permanent resident of Canada. So that's how our process went in a nutshell. I tried to summarize it as much as possible, but I hope it was useful information. If yes, like, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, turn on notifications. Don't miss out when I upload the next video. Cheers.